Namaste. Hi, I'm Bruce Benefiel, and welcome to One World. Hi again, and welcome to this week's edition of One World. Namaste is actually from the Brahmi language, which is the predecessor to Sanskrit. It simply means, I worship what is within you. Imagine if we could all do that walking down the street and recognize that in each other and build that so that we can have a harmonious world. This evening's guests are Alice Navarro Whitehouse and Richard Valenzuela. Now, Alice Whitehouse is the publisher of Extend magazine. It's a multicultural magazine, and she publishes articles on how business is integrating a multicultural perspective. Richard Valenzuela is the executive director of the National Conference of Christians and Jews, and he's also the coordinator for a project here in Arizona called Anytown, and he's also one of the co-founders of Arizona Affirmative Action. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome them both. Alice, Richard, glad to have you here.
Pleasure to be here, Bruce.
Alice, now you've got some interesting background. You're from Panama originally. What got you started with the multicultural perspective with the magazine here?
Well, from a Christian perspective, I've always known that God made us, all, and that we need to live in peace. And when I came to America, I encountered a lot of the barriers that go with, different cultures. Mm-hmm. Not knowing the language, not speaking English properly, not writing it properly. I encountered a lot of barriers because of that, to communication and to understanding. And I've always been interested in bridging that gap, if you will. I just never knew how to approach it. I didn't know how to call some of the things that I experienced. And many times it was frustrating, but for the most part, I have had good experiences, and those good experiences have enabled me now to reach out. And this is what got me into this.
Was there any one in particular experience that you had, let's say on an inner level or on a level that you didn't really understand that you now do, that led you to the publishing of the magazine?
Both. I've had an inner experience of a very, very strong commitment that has come within me to do something in order to contribute to, especially in the workplace. Mm-hmm. Contribute to understanding, contribute to harmony, right. Contribute to people being treated in a humane way, not as machines. Right. I have had a lot of respect for people in the business world. They have titles and they have education, but the minute I see them treating another human being, with less respect or bad, my respect for them sort of diminishes.
Yeah, it's tough to realize sometimes in a corporate environment or something like that we all put our pants on the same way, or skirts.
That's right.
Richard, what got you started with the council? And well, first of all, what I'd like to find out is what got you started in the founding of the Affirmative Action here in Arizona?
Well, the Affirmative Action Association is basically was just an outcome of some of the work that we'd already done in the area of human relations and prejudice reduction. And we were working with labor management relations at the time. This was 16 years ago. And we thought, with the coming of affirmative action, equal employment field, it was a good way to not only help, I guess, bridge a gap and work with minorities and women so they can reach their highest potential, but here was to train corporations and executives to provide them the information that they needed in order to do that kind of work and do it properly. It was a fast-moving, changing field 16 years ago.
You bet. There's a lot of things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Then what got you started with or what got you involved with the Council of Christian Jews?
Basically, when I was a high school senior, I was invited to attend one of the Unitown Human Relations program, which was started here in Arizona in 1957. And I attended in 1965, and I was so intrigued by the whole concept that I'd been searching for something like this, because I had seen prejudice, I'd seen discrimination, I've seen people hurt, and I thought this was a very positive way, an educational way, by bringing people together, allowing them to live with each other. Mm-hmm. We tend to overcome some of the fears that keep us apart.
Now, any town is set up with children in mind.
Basically, high school age students. Mm-hmm. We take 100. Well, right now we're up to 6 camps now, where we're taking 85 to 90 students from all over the state and some from across the nation, and bring them together for 1 week of living with each other. And we take into consideration that it's multiracial, multi-religious, multi-cultural in every different way, and we even consider geographic mix and economic mix.
Any special success stories you've had come out of that?
Oh, we've had, one thing about the experience, we get calls from people. Well, we're into the second, we might be into the third generation of people that are just sending their children or now their grandchildren to the program. So I think that tells you something. They don't necessarily remember the particular experience or what went on, but they never forget the experience of being up there for 6 nights and 7 days.
Oh, it's going to be a phenomenal thing to be involved with.
Yeah, it's very been.
Now, Alice, in moving through your seeming dysfunctions in the United States, you mentioned the language barrier, and well, it seems like a dysfunction when you're coming into another culture and you're having to change around. What kind of fears did you encounter, and how did you overcome them?
Well, a good example of the dysfunction, and people, when I get invited as a speaker or to conduct a seminar, the first thing I tell people is that I came to this country and barely knew how to speak English, but then when it came to writing or reading, that was another thing altogether different. And though having an independent spirit, I used to go to the store once in a while. My husband was away. When he was around, I never had any problems, but when I went by myself, I always picked up the wrong thing. And an example of that, one time I picked up a can of hairspray. It was just, you go by feel and you see the things that are shaped almost the same thing. And I picked up this can and I put it on my hair, and I see all this foam coming out of the can, and I didn't know what it was. And my friends that were waiting for me to take me to this party started laughing. They said, "This is woodlight for the rug." They said, "This is not hairspray." And another time I picked up a can of tuna, a whole bunch actually. They were on sale, and I thought, how wonderful.
That's
coming from wonderful, coming from Panama and liking seafood. And it turned out to be canned tuna for cats, actually, that kind of stuff. But it was a very good casserole, let me tell you. My neighbors still tell me about that casserole. They'll never forget it. Okay. But no, it is that way. And I've talked with people like from Vietnam, and they came in the so-called boat people. That they saw one lady to say she saw this Crisco can, and he had this beautiful chicken picture, and she didn't know how to read English, so she picked it up on the picture. She thought that's what is in the can, and when she took it home, she sees this white stuff, and she doesn't know what to do with it. And many people go through that. You'd be surprised.
I had a friend of mine who was in Japan. He says he couldn't tell the difference between shampoo and shave cream.
Really? Yeah. Yes. It does make people dysfunctional in some ways, but When I came, though, it was the climate. The whole climate was, well, if you have a minority, that's all you need. It is a token. In many companies, I was the only minority. In some others, I was a part of a very, very few members of that population, and always in my department, I was the only one. So they didn't know at times what to do with me, and the communication problem was, and so I reacted at times with frustration, and I would let it get negative, instead of positive. And this is what we're trying now to get management, people in positions of authority, to understand what kind of approaches they need to take in order to deal with these problems.
And to honor the people in the process.
That's right. To respect, yes, respect people.
Richard, I don't know that you would have encountered any fears other than those that you might have created within yourself as far as the success of the program. But did you have anything that you needed to work through, and how did you do it?
As far as the running or the creation of the Unitown program, Bruce?
With that whole scenario, what came up within you that you had to deal with in order to be successful with it?
That's hard to say. To be successful with it, I think once you get people together, I think part of it is convincing people sometimes that it's okay to let their child go to a program like this, especially coming from a religious perspective or maybe their own cultural fears. Like I remember we used to have difficulty with getting Hispanic females to be allowed to come to a program like this away from their homes because of the Hispanic culture,
right.
Saying, hey, we don't allow the girls to go out by themselves. And so we had to overcome that in our relationship with working with the culture. I think we've run into it to some degree with the Asian culture also over the years. For people to let go to some degree, to allow their sons and daughters to integrate, to find out about others, I think can be a fear for a lot of people and a lot of families. But I think, for the most part, we've overcome most of those. We're working,
Did you have any period of time where you saw an issue come up and you just had a real difficult time in thinking how you could get through it in those initial stages? We're talking about working through the cultural...
Well, even right now, one of the issues has come up. It's not so much... Well, I consider it a cultural issue, but it's more like a female-male cultural issue. Right now, there's an epidemic of date rape occurring all across the country, especially with young people.
Right.
And we brought that issue into being about 3 or 4 years ago into the program. And we still got a lot of resistance, even from some of our other staff or volunteer staff, about is this an issue we should be dealing with? Can we deal with what the outcome is if you start talking about date rape or assault? Are we going too far? It's much like when we used to talk about racial issues. People were saying, how far can you go? Watch out.
Right.
Now they're saying the same thing with some of these sexual issues that I think we need to deal with.
Yeah, it's something that's been stuffed, back in the corner that I don't think any generation has truly brought it out and dealt with it. It seems to be being brought out a lot more now where the issue is being put on the table and people are talking about it more freely. However, it's still a sensitive issue with a lot of people.
Yeah, homophobia is another issue that we're still having to deal with.
Alice, how do you see the things that you're doing blending into a multicultural experience? What kind of effects do you see it having?
Well, the effects that I see is that the workplace is becoming easier for people to communicate, to work together. Management is realizing that because it has been predicted, it is already a fact, that by the year 2000, a lot more of the workforce will consist of women and minorities and immigrants. And because the components of this population have many different angles to deal with, they can no longer treat it just as something that you sweep under the rug. And now we have this female who, I represented women and minorities and immigrants. You're only one person, but now they have many, and they have also disabled people, older workers that are going back to work because they're retired, but they're not able to financially afford to stay away. They have a lot more mothers, and they have to deal with many other issues they used to basically ignore. So what I see, the effects that I see is basically dealing with these issues head on and making it work for them, using the talents and the capitalize on this diversity of people and all the experiences and contributions that they can make in order to succeed and to remain competitive, you see, because if they don't do that, then they will have a lot more turnover, and that is going to have
a keep people in.
That's right. If they hire people and take the time and the money to give them training, they want to keep them. They wouldn't want to turn them over to the competition.
Sure.
So dealing with that, I see good effects of what we're doing right now. My main mission with the magazine, by the way, just in case your audience has never seen it, here is the magazine. This is the premiere issue.
Let's see. Well, here. That'll do good right there.
Oh, thank you. And this was the second issue of the magazine. And the mission we have is to, through interviews and articles and other features, give some of the information to people in management that they need to more or less recognize some of these challenges that are coming up and how to overcome them.
Because just working in the workplace and focusing on that particular issue is not enough for a lot of people now. They want to be able to be themselves in the workplace. Not that they're being destructive in any way, but they're just being more caring about what they're doing. And I know for myself, several years ago, was working for an aerospace firm, suggested having interpersonal skills classes in our department, and that became a threat to the managers. I wasn't wise enough at that time to recognize that issue.
And how to overcome it.
Right. I found out a year and a half later, after I was gone, that they did institute, some type of interpersonal skills classes throughout the management levels. But at least, maybe I planted a seed. And
that's right, you planted a seed.
Richard, how do you see things coming together multiculturally with let's say, the Unitown program? That's probably the one that you're most active in.
Well, not only multicultural, not only a program like Unitown, which we feel we've been a multicultural program for 35 years. It just wasn't called that. I feel that multiculturalism now is a necessary thing rather than a luxury or a good philosophical idea like it has been in the past. The same way with affirmative action. Now the reality is that the workforce is changing, the population of America is changing, the color of America is changing, and we've got to accept it. We can't run away. I think part of the reasons why we may be having some of the racial problems or prejudicial problems or issues that are occurring is there's a fear out there. There's a xenophobia of some sort.
Right.
So I think we just got to, look at the advantages and take it with us, and also the whole idea of being global. We're just not an isolated America anymore.
Nope.
Right, it is a global experience. I mean, just in recent times, we've had the wall in Berlin come down. We've had the downfall, so to speak, of Russia as a nation, and people are beginning to speak up. For Arizona alone, we're 51% Hispanic? Is that?
No, we're not that high yet. We're approximately 23, I believe, was the last percentage I saw. But you see, there's an uncounted number out there that people do not know.
Right.
But that is a truism that as far as the increased immigration rates that are increasing tremendously, and as walls come down all over the world, immigration is going to increase.
How do you see them coming down?
Well, I think just like the communist system, I think has been people, I think people have just found out that you can only carry a system of division only so long.
That's right.
It's amazing how those ethnic feelings have been there for 70 years and did not go away. That feeling of I think ethnicity is very important. One of the things we teach our young people is, or one of the things we discovered over the years in our young people, is that one of the reasons why many minorities or people of color have low self-esteem is because they haven't accepted that they are equal or that they're good enough.
That's
They've been second-class citizens for so many years. And so it's that self-esteem building that comes out of identifying your cultural identity and being proud of it.
I have it even as a white boy. I mean, it's some of us, it's a fear of success. You know,
Yeah.
you have things in front of you that could just totally expand your life, and you come up to it and you're used to other patterns, and this is a new one, and it's kind of, it's real testy. You don't really know how to deal with it and open up to it. How do you see things coming about and the barriers coming down, Alice?
Well, I go about things now asking questions. I ask people, do you see, progress? What kind of progress do you see? And what kind of role are you willing to play to make the progress? Because you see, we can all sit down and complain about all the things that are wrong, but if you don't get out there and get involved in some kind of way and play some role to bring things to change, to be a change agent, then, in my opinion, you better not complain.
Simple analogies, if you're pointing a finger at something, look real close at your hands. You got 3 of them coming back at you.
That's right.
You know.
So I ask people, what roles are you willing to play to get this going? And the ones that are already in it, I ask them what kind of progress they see. And I am very, very happy to tell you that things are coming along a lot faster than I ever thought they would. And to me, that is a blessing to all of us. If we want America to remain the #1 economy in the world and a leader as we should be, we have to do this. We have to address the issues that put a lot of tension, whether it's racial tension, whether it's gender tension, whether it's generational gaps, between different ages. We have to accept people, whoever they are, with the baggage they bring, and try to see through that to find the most positive thing they have in order for them to be contributors.
Excellently put.
Thank you.
I couldn't have said it better. Richard, what kind of things do you see that people can do in their own lives to make things better for them in the way that they interact in society, in their personal lives, and in business?
I think we each have to look at ourselves and see what prejudices we may have, what barriers we have put up that keep us from reaching out to other people and accepting other people. One of the reasons why I got into this work was I thought the whole area of interracial relationships in the 50s and 60s being so foreign and so out of place, and people are still coming up and saying, we have the purity of races, which I believe is totally false. I think we need to be able to accept each other and not have these fears or these perceptions of the worst of other people.
Do you feel that those are built in, or do you feel that those are enforced by the media?
No, I don't know.
Or reinforced by the media?
I think media plays a role, but I think our parents and our people that we associate with reinforce it even more sometimes. None of us are born to be bigots or racists, but we sure learn very quickly.
The reason I asked about the media is because Allison are amazing. Okay.
I think media can take both
true.
sides. I think you've seen some very positive things come across in the media, and then some very negative reinforcement. So.
Well, that's the role I want to play. I want to be on the side of the media that try to use the medium for positive, to make things better for everybody. We're all in this together, you know.
That's
and
it.
I believe there's also a book that we've put together. It's called Cultural Diversity Management, A New Perspective. And that is for management people to get a feel for some of the issues, but not just from the point of view of a PhD or somebody who's an educator.
Sometimes there's educated idiots, too. You know, they've just gone through school and done their beans about real life.
This is more from my point of view as a person who has walked in those shoes, you know, and I have experienced the stereotypes, the discrimination, or a very, very acute sense of misunderstanding because of the language barriers and so forth. I authored this, but I quote a lot of people, including Richard Valenzuela.
Good.
Yes. It's pretty much how to listen to people, you know, when they cannot communicate, tips on overcoming language barriers, and using cultural diversity to motivate people in order to contribute to achieve goals.
Great. In a nutshell, what practical advice can you offer?
Like Richard said before, I would have to, you know, quote him, and that is, we have to start looking into ourselves first and trying to find out what is within that is keeping us from reaching out. We need to be more open-minded, you know, and most of all compassionate. Issues of whatever kind should be dealt with no matter who you're dealing with. You cannot just look down on a person and say, well, I'm not going to deal with you because you're not worth it to me. We're all in this together.
Well, Alice, Richard, we're out of time. Thanks so much for being here. And thank you all for watching the show. If you'd like some more information, would like to find out about Extend Magazine or more about Unitown, USA, please give us a call at 602-264-0986, or if you so choose, you could drop us a line. Care of One World, P.O. Box 32035, Phoenix, Arizona 85064. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Bruce Benefiel. Namaste.